Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second session of the third annual NM-DELT virtual conference. My name is Cash Clifton, and I will be moderating this session today. It is fast, flexible, and user-friendly, how we digitize our HSE curriculum with Emily Gleekus, and we are very happy to have Emily here today. If you would like credit from your program for attending, please sign in to the YouTube comments. As we go through, if you do have any questions or comments, please put those in there and I will be sure to read them to Emily. So the plan for this session, we're going to have about a 30-minute presentation, and then we'll leave 10 minutes for question and answer at the end. So with that said, I will turn it over to you, Emily. Welcome.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. As Cash said, my name is Emily Gleekus. If you've talked to me before, or if you've talked to me this past year, you probably know that Clovis is in the middle of a major overhaul of our HSE curriculum. This past fall, we decided to move to where our curriculum was built entirely around open educational resources and stored online, kept online, shared online, just to increase flexibility and access among our instructors and teachers. And so today, I've had a lot of questions about how we set it up, how we organize it, how we came up with our curriculum. And so today I'm hoping that you can just get a tour of our drive and how we've done this, and hopefully get some ideas for how you can use the NM-DELT team and EdReady and other NREC products for your own program. And so, like I said, this started last year with our work through the C3 project. We kind of checked in on our curriculum and decided that we needed to make some changes. And so we launched this all last fall, and this is our pilot year. So far, we're seeing a lot of good things, including a lot of graduates, which has been great news for us. And so at the beginning of this project, we had a fairly traditional class setup. We ran classes in 8-week sessions. We did math all the time. We had a math 1 and a math 2. And then we rotated through in 8-week cycles a language arts class, a social studies class, and a science class. What we would see were a lot of students losing steam midway through that 8-week session, a lot of students losing steam before they completed the full rotation of classes. And just in general, you know, a lot of problems with retention, problems with attendance, and also problems with progress. And so we decided to launch this redesign. So when we started, we had a few guiding principles. We kind of sat down and looked at exactly what we needed for our teachers and for our students. So we decided there were kind of two big things that we needed to work on. One was an open curriculum. We are grant funded, and so funds are limited. We don't get textbook funds every single year. So we wanted to make sure we found something sustainable. We built our curriculum around the college and career readiness standards. We made sure that as many of our resources as possible were openly sourced and free to use. We wanted to cut down on class time, so we made everything interdisciplinary and started tying together the content knowledge in science and social studies with the reading and writing skills and language arts. That way students were taking fewer classes in the long run, but still getting all the skills that they needed. We wanted our curriculum to be module-based. That way students could start and stop. Many of our AE students, you know, come and go when they can. And so we wanted to make sure that they had a way to jump back in when they were ready to go again. Another thing I wanted to make sure we had was room to grow. And so we made sure everything was flexible so that we can change courses out if we need to. We can change resources out if we need to. And then when we have to change teachers out, it's easy for a teacher to pick up and keep going with that course. The other key element was the digital access. We wanted all of our file storage to be online. Up to this point, we use jump drives, and I don't know if any of you have any teachers that lose their jump drives, but I always have a few. And so I kind of got tired of buying jump drives every semester. And so now we use Google Drive to store all of our files. And this has helped us increase collaboration among instructors, and then also increase student access so that students can also access course materials, course resources from home. And so to launch this project, we had a few key components. As I mentioned before, the entire curriculum is designed around the NROC resource collection. If you're familiar at all, you'll probably recognize some of these things. We use the EdReady Math and the EdReady English. Those, we have students create accounts. They can access them online on their phones. They can work on it in class, at home. And the students have really been enjoying that so far. In class, we supplement with the NROC Developmental Math textbook and the NROC Developmental English textbook. Those kind of serve as our class textbooks. They're open to use, open educational resources. They're free, and they're provided by NROC. We also supplement with OpenStax, is another open educational resource that provides college level textbooks for free, usually to those intro classes in college. We knew that if we were going to cut out the social studies and science classes and focus on content area literacy, that we needed to have some content-rich nonfiction for our students to read and to practice developing their reading skills with. So we use the U.S. history textbook from OpenStax. We also use the U.S. government textbook from OpenStax. And then we use the concepts in biology textbook as well. And that we found to be pretty successful at developing students' reading skills, their note-taking skills, preparing them for a college level text, and also exposing them to that content area knowledge that they need for the exams. And then the last component, NMDELT has really helped us in keeping everything organized, keeping everything secure, keeping everything where we can share it easily, change it, move it around. So we use Google Tools for Education for all of that. We use our Google Drive, Classroom, and then at this point, all of our HSE students have NMDELT accounts, and we use Hangouts and emails with them all the time. Forms has been a big one for us. We've moved a lot of our classroom evaluations, a lot of our data gathering to forms, which just helps us cut down on time, compiling stats and typing up lists of answers. And so getting into what the curriculum actually looks like, this presentation is going to be posted to NMDELT, I'm pretty sure. And so all of the links in this slideshow are live if you want to come back later and look through everything. But
and Emily, yeah, I will be sure this is posted to NMDELT. Thank you for that.
Perfect. And so just kind of some basics. Our courses run in 4-week cycles, and we run 4 days a week. So Monday through Thursday, we do an hour and a half of math and then an hour and a half of their reading class. So 3 hours a day, 12 hours a week. We've cut down to where we're just focusing on math and reading. The reading classes are really those interdisciplinary classes where we're pulling in the nonfiction content as we develop reading skills. And then we do also level classes. So we have 2 levels. Clovis Community College, our colors are blue and gold. So we have blue as our lower level, our foundational skills courses. And then the gold is more of those students that are in those high school levels that are really approaching test ready. And so going into our course overview, this is kind of what it looks like. For our math classes, they're pretty standard. What we've done is we've really embraced that depth over breadth approach. We really focused in on what skills we were seeing over and over and over again on the HSE exams and also in those transitional and entry-level college math classes. Our blue math courses are all about developing students' number skills, so their arithmetic skills. We've got decimals and dollars. That is, their basic addition, multiplication, subtraction, and division. We focus on money. We try to keep it focused on budgeting and tie in kind of those skills. Fractions and factors. I'm sure all of you have students that struggle with those fractions. Data and stats is our statistics and probability course. Once again, focusing on the real life examples and also reading graphic documents. So reading graphs, reading charts, and analyzing data. The gold math courses, we get more into those pre-algebra and geometry concepts. We have a course for real numbers, all about integers, exponents, roots, radicals, all those kinds of things. Then we have profits and patterns. That is our algebra or our pre-algebra course. And then shapes and spaces, of course, is our geometry. Over here on the right are our reading courses, where it's a little more experimental. And so this is where we've really been working to tie things together and cut down on class time. In the blue reading courses, all three, the focus is on reading for information and then also writing information. And so reading something and then explaining it back in your own words. In the first session, we focus on U.S. history and war after war. Then we move into human health and life sciences and hit those biology concepts that show up on the HSE exams over and over. And then we move into research and report, which is really a beginning writing informative texts class. For the gold reading courses, we have Read Your Rights, where we talk more about evaluating and synthesizing reading, so beginning to read critically. They also are exposed to U.S. government concepts at that time. Then they move into maps, graphs, and other data. That's our graphic literacy course. And finally, they finish up with A+ arguments, where they're really working on writing argumentative essays, analyzing texts, and preparing for those essays that are on the HSE exams. We also expose them a little bit to citations and references and formats like MLA at this time. And so going back to our course descriptions, we give all the students the overview, so the full class list during registration. And then after they take their TABE test, they get their class placements, they get their class schedules. We provide them with a course description and a course calendar, so they know exactly what's going on in the class. At this point, I want to show off some of these to you, but Cash, do we have any requests for a specific course that anyone would like to look at?
So if we can pause for just a minute here. Yeah, if anybody sees something on the screen you'd really like to look at, please type that in the comments. See, several of those look really interesting. I am curious, and I'm sorry if you already said this. What does the CC represent, Emily?
Course calendar.
Course calendar. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I don't see anybody requesting anything particular in the chat just yet. Do you mind if I make a request?
Yeah, pick one.
I'd really like to learn about data and stats today.
Data and stats.
And how what you have there. Thank you.
And so the course overview, this handout is given to students when they, like I said, when they get their class schedule. We really break down exactly what they're going to learn. So we go from the college and career standards, career readiness standards. We kind of tune them down so that they're in student-friendly language, so that it is, approachable for students. We tell them exactly, how will this help you on your exam? We use the GED exam most frequently here. And then we also tell them, how it will help them later on in life, in college or in a job situation. And then at the bottom, it really shows how those EdReady components, how those EdReady units tie into class. This handout we also use because we rotate through the sessions. Say a student comes to us after we've already offered this class for the semester. They can get this handout, they can take it home, they can work on this on EdReady so that they're not missing any content. And that we found gives them a more confidence, especially when they feel like they have a lot of those gaps that they're trying to overcome. The other component of that is the course calendar. And so this is more of what people would consider the curriculum. This is a guide for the teachers. It kind of keeps them on pace and on track with all of the content that needs to be covered in this class. This is also a guide for students, so they know exactly what's going to be going on each day. Some of my students, not many, but some of them will get on EdReady and they'll do the lessons that they're going to be doing in class ahead of time. That way they come to class with their questions ready. Other students will use this after class to get on EdReady and review those units or those topics. And still other students, will use this if they miss a class. They can get on, they can do that topic, and then they're not falling behind in class. And so this is a huge part of the flexibility piece that we've built in, making sure that students know exactly what's going on every day in class. And then over here, you'll also see all of those standards that we're hitting in the class. And then I want to show you one of the course calendars for our reading class. Let's go ahead and look at War After War. And so this is the U.S. history and the reading for information, the foundational reading class. And so here you can kind of see how we tie those two together. And so each week we pick one reading focus, one reading skill that they're going to be working on. We pick a few grammar concepts that they're going to be working on and practicing. And then we have them work through a college level history textbook where they're really practicing reading complex texts. We do a lot to practice note taking, using graphic organizers, highlighting skills, reading skills, so that they are prepared when they go to college to read a textbook independently. And so here you can kind of see that breakdown of the standards are more about the reading, but each day they're working through different content. That way they are getting the background knowledge they need to be successful on the test, and then also to be successful as a citizen and as an employee in the future. And so you've kind of already seen this a little bit. We use a couple of different Google tools to make this all happen. So we use Google Drive to store all our files, to organize all our resources, and to share resources and curriculum with each other. We use Hangouts for peer communication between teachers, between myself and the teachers. And then they have also begun using it with the students. We found this to be really successful, particularly if you work with students who change their phone number a lot. Their Hangouts, they log back into their account, and even if they get a new phone or even if they're on their Wi-Fi phone, it's the same Hangout account. And then, of course, we use Google Classroom to share resources with the students, to provide them homework if they would like it, extra practice, extra copies. I can't tell you how many times we would make extra copies for a student and then find them sitting on the bench outside in the hallway or find them in the bathroom. And so this has cut down on some of our copy costs and also that time of going back and making student copies. And then we've also seen increased student engagement, kind of taking this blended learning approach and really tying in the digital access to class so that they are practicing getting online in class, and then they're also encouraged to get online at home. And so just for a brief glance at our Drive organization, like I said, we keep everything on Google Drive. This is what my Drive looks like. Each teacher has the access, to the folder that they need. If we go into one, we'll go into the math here. We sort everything by course, and then for each kind of content area, we also have the general resources folder. If you don't color code your Google Drive, I would highly recommend it. It makes it a lot easier to look at it quickly and find what you need. So here you can see I have my blue courses and my gold courses. Each of those courses contains the documents we were looking at earlier. So it has the course calendar, it has the student overview, and then I also do a formal list of the standard alignments so that it is in there and we know what we're doing. Then all of the resources and lesson plans are organized by week. And we also have a skill check that is an internally developed test that we've created so that students get a sense of how they're doing in that set of skills. Just because we found that on the TABE test, sometimes they'll come in, they'll do a lot of really hard, great work on decimals for 4 weeks, and then they go take the TABE again, and they maybe only see 1 or 2 questions with decimals. And so we developed the skill check, like I said, as an internal test that gives them feedback that's a little more targeted. That way they don't have that feeling of, we learned all this and it wasn't even on the test. They really get to see what skills they've improved, and we make sure that we measure that and give them that feedback. In our general math resources, this is where we store a lot of our activities, a lot of our Ed Ready supplements. This is where we also store those NROC developmental textbooks. So the textbooks are all stored on here. The teacher can come in, can print a few pages of a unit, and this is all free from NROC. And so the last thing I wanted to share with you guys today, here are just kind of some examples of how we engage our students in this blended learning experiment, how we kind of replicate what we're doing in class online, and how we really try to tie it all together so that the students are seeing the same things in class and online, and they have that access and it flows really smoothly. Here I've got an example of a math lesson and then also a language arts lesson. On the math lesson, we're looking at real numbers. This was a lesson for exponents and square roots. And so this lesson plan is stored digitally. This teacher makes really, really detailed, really nice to follow, easy lesson plans. She's probably one of my favorite teachers to sub for because it's very easy to come in here and follow along. In class, we do, present the material. We like to use, some drill for practice, some worksheets to get the concept down, do a few examples. But a lot of that practice, moving to the blended learning model, what we've done is we've taken a lot of that drill and moved it out of class so that students can do the worksheets, they can do the drill exercises at home on their own. And in class, we can really focus on a contextualization activity, on applying these concepts and really understanding how they're used. And so, for example, this instructor spent most of this lesson here on applying exponents with exponential growth. This was a simple lesson that the students did about exponential growth and decay. It gives them a scenario where they have a sleeper cell of zombies and, so many zombies turn each day, and the students have to figure out, okay, how long will it take for everyone to be a zombie? How many zombies will there be on day 6? How many zombies will there be on day 8? Later, they come up with an anecdote, and then they have to figure out how long will it take to treat all the zombies. And so this, it's kind of a fun activity. It's also tied into healthcare. This is how the CDC monitors disease spread and disease control. And so it gives students that example of why do we need to know these weird little numbers that sit up by the numbers? It shows them kind of what those exponents are used for and some examples of how they might see that in real life. And so this in-class lesson is supplemented with a Google Classroom follow-up. And so the students have access to go on here. This is not required for a grade. What we've been doing is encouraging students, to get on to practice the concept at home for 10 or 15 minutes a night after class. And that's what we've seen the most success with. And so here you can see she's got a link to the topic player so that they can go review that material in EdReady. She also has some extra videos from YouTube that they can watch at home. And then this is where we've offloaded some of that drill by putting the worksheets online, where we do a few examples just to get it down in class. A lot of that routine drill and memory work, though, is done by students at home. That way, we're not spending a lot of class time waiting on them to finish worksheets. If you're feeling a little intimidated after seeing that lesson plan, don't worry. We've really, like I said, this is designed to be flexible and user-friendly, so I let teachers use it kind of as they will. I wanted to look at a language arts course that's structured a little differently. And so Read Your Rights, if we look at their drive folder, like you see, it's not as highly structured, but this still is very organized, easy to navigate, and it's a nice way to be able to get on and pull your resources really quickly. One thing I also wanted to point out about this folder is that this is actually a folder that is shared between multiple teachers. And so you can see here that several different people have come in here and put their stuff in here. This is where we get that collaboration. Everything for that lesson is stored in a folder. That way teachers can come in, they can see if they, if they're needing something, it's there, they can grab it, they can go to class. And then just as an example too of that classroom, this teacher uses the classroom mainly to post and share extra videos, extra resources, things that she may not have gotten to in class, or I like the way she phrases it. Sometimes she'll put, let me see if I can find it here. Sometimes she'll make a comment about, here is how it's presented a little differently, where maybe this will help make a little more sense. Or here's a follow-up to that video we watched in class. And so this just allows us to extend students' learning a little beyond the class day. All of all of Google Classroom is very mobile friendly. If you're using PDFs and YouTube videos, the students will be able to access it on their mobile devices. And they shouldn't have too many problems with it, especially if you take a day of class or two to get them all on, get them to download the apps and kind of run through and troubleshoot some of their problems right at the beginning of class. They tend to do pretty well with this. So the last thing to end on here, just some lessons learned and next steps. Of course, if you have any more questions, reach out to me and let me know. But some recommendations I can tell you ahead of time. Do make sure you get the InDelt team involved. They are very resourceful. They are very helpful. They know a lot about all of these things, and they are here and willing to listen to your needs and help you, troubleshoot and brainstorm with ideas of how you can bring more blended learning into your program, how you can use these resources to strengthen your program. I would also recommend using a train the trainer model. Find a few lead teachers who can really embrace this learning and partner them up with teachers who maybe have less digital skills or maybe struggling or a little more reluctant to embrace the online. I found that to be really successful by letting the teachers teach each other, letting the teachers help each other instead of always me kind of enforcing it on them. And then focus on being flexible and functional. It's not all going to be perfect the first time around, but as long as you're keeping flexibility in mind, you'll be able to change things out. For example, our real numbers course started out as a prices and percentages course that was kind of a catch-all course that didn't work out. It was very chaotic. It was very scattered. It was the students didn't really like it. They felt overwhelmed and confused. But the way that we built the structure, we were able to pull that course, redesign it, pop it back in, and it didn't really change the overall structure of our curriculum. Don't change everything at once. Focus on making a few changes. We started rolling this out about 2 years ago. We brought a few lead teachers on to InDelt and onto Google Classroom. Then we expanded that to all of the teachers being on Google Classroom, being on InDelt, having those using Google for Education to store files, to create files, to make presentations. Then this year we rolled it out to the students. So we really took it step by step in expanding the use of these tools among our program. Also, don't force teachers. We have printed copies of all the materials and textbooks. So I really gave teachers a year to step into this, to have, the traditional textbook sitting next to them that they can make copies of, but also to start experimenting with and playing with the Google tools so that they could get used to it and see how time-saving and how convenient it is. And then the last thing, don't forget to protect your files. This has been a huge lesson learned for us. If you lose a teacher or if you're sharing your documents with lots of people, just remember to keep those files as view only and to go through every few weeks and remove anyone who shouldn't be on there. That way no one can accidentally delete or remove or change content that you don't want to be changed. And so I think I'm sitting right at 30 minutes. You can see our next steps over there. We're still figuring it out. We're still working on improving and growing. But I want to go ahead and turn it back over to you guys. Are there any questions or requests for things to look at again?
Thank you for that, Emily. If I can just make one comment about the danger of losing files and that kind of thing. Anybody who is working in the InDelt domain, we can usually restore lost files within 60 days. So Google automatically backs everything up. So if somebody goes in and really messes something up, usually you can contact one of the Delt team members and we can go in there and pull the original version of the file. But unfortunately at day 61, those backups are usually erased. So just wanted to add that. And I don't see any questions in the chat at this point, but we can give people a minute or two to collect their thoughts and type if they do have questions. Can I ask you a question, Emily?
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you guys are using open education resources. So NROC, OpenStax, and Google for Education, I think, are the three that you mentioned. I've spoken to people around the state that kind of worry about the quality and the rigor of open educational resources compared to the more traditional textbook model. Can you address your staff's experience with that or your experience?
So there are concerns about quality control, obviously, but we are seeing a lot of government funds going to the development of open educational resources. The Gates Foundation is also a huge funder of a lot of these open educational resources, and acquiring those funds seems to be helping improve the quality. One thing I can show you on OpenStax here, if I can remember my login, is that if you go in and you go to, for example, their government textbook, one thing that I really like about these books is that it does have where is it? I may have to search. I may not be able to just show you. But there is on here a set of corrections. And so, oh, here we go. So they do provide errata release notes. And the great thing about open educational resources is that they are constantly changing, they're constantly growing, and they are built around instructor feedback, around teacher feedback. They're really resources that are developed by practitioners for practitioners. And so you can see here that these are the errata notes for this open educational resource. You know, it is a free resource, so there's going to be things that happen. Even in my McGraw-Hill textbooks, I catch errors all the time. But the nice thing about open educational resources versus those McGraw-Hill textbooks is that these can be changed. And so here are the notes where actual instructors, when they catch errors, when they catch typos, submit those to OpenStax, and they go back through and they correct it. Or they make sure that you're aware of, here you can see the broken link. Here you can see, I don't know what they changed here with James Comey, but you can see exactly what got changed on every page. And that to me almost makes it like it's more up to date and more accurate than a textbook that you spend a lot of money on that you've got it for the next 6 years. And if there's a typo in it, you're stuck with it.
Yeah, that's kind of the beauty of digital is these can be more like living documents. You're right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one thing I've learned recently about OERs is sometimes they're textbooks that formerly were published that now people are making available for free. So I know, for example, at UNM, they had a professor who published a science book. It wasn't selling well, and so they gave the rights back to that professor, and then he just made that available through OpenStax. So sometimes they even are the original textbooks with some of these updates. So thank you for sharing about that, Emily. Let's see here. So as far as questions, no questions, but we have some praise. Chris from Catholic Charities says, thanks, Emily, great presentation. We have a similar model at Catholic Charities. This was helpful, especially about the OERs. So it looks like people did enjoy it. Chris said, I'm not sure what DPM means, but I assume it's question or praise. So we'll.
Is that downloads per minute?
Downloads per minute? Maybe. Let's see. So we'll see if anybody else comes through. I do want to echo what Emily said, that Delta is happy to work with you. We can work with you virtually. So if you like to do video chats like this, we can definitely do that. We can set up face-to-face trainings. So I'm down here broadcasting from Clovis because I was just working with Emily and her program yesterday. So Delt's happy to come and see you. And Kristen is saying, please go to signin.nmdelt.org to let us know you are here. And even if you don't do that, I will be sure your name is added to that spreadsheet. Okay, well, it looks like we don't have any questions. I think you were just that thorough, Emily. So that was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you to everybody for attending. So our next webinar will begin at 11 o'clock. I do want to remind you about our tech talk. So our next tech talk is going to take place this next Wednesday at 12:30. That's a ELA tech talk. So Monse, Dawn, and Jamie would like to invite everybody to join them at that, and we will see you at the next session.